All right, so that's a nice duo there, Obapa Christie and Kwame Eugene with a song to just energize you, pump your heart up a little bit. And talking of heart, well, our conversation in the BFS clinic has to do with, things like that, around that. Because tomorrow is World Hypertension Day, and so we'll welcome you to our special BFS clinic segment where I have two doctors here to talk to us about hypertension. May is Hypertension Awareness Month, and in the studio, Dr. Frederick Akoto, who is a cardiologist at the University of Ghana Medical Center, and Dr. Florence Akumia, who is a physician specialist at the National Cardiothoracic Center, today to talk all about hypertension. Good morning, welcome to the show. And I'm going to start with Frederick. So tell us about the Ghanaian Society of Cardiology before we even jump into this whole business of hypertension.
Good morning, and thank you for having us on your show this morning. So, the Ghanaian Society of Cardiology is a society of medical professionals who have been trained in the management of heart diseases and diseases of the blood vessels, as well as other interested professionals who are also interested in this agenda. Our main mandate is to advocate for healthy heart by way of health education, training of medical professionals, as well as also training of professionals in the specialty of cardiology. Our motto is touching heart and regulating practice.
That's all, touching the hearts. And then May is a big month, Dr. Kumia, because all the M's are there. It's May Measurement Month. And then also we have our World Hypertension Day, which is tomorrow. What's the importance of these two observances? Measuring and then the day itself.
So usually we have various bodies, groups of authorities that come together that want to regulate how we sort of sensitize people about diseases, research into diseases. So for hypertension, it's a big problem, a big public health problem. So the International Society of Hypertension set aside the month of May that throughout the month of May would encourage people to check their blood pressure, know their numbers. So that's why it's known as the May Measurement Month. And then the 17th of the month by the World Hypertension League has been marked as a Global Health Day for World Hypertension Day. So that's why May is very important when it comes to hypertension.
Awesome. And the day is just around the corner tomorrow, right?
Yes, tomorrow.
And while we're on the topic of hypertension and blood pressure, what is normal blood pressure, Dr. Kubia?
Normal blood pressure, preferably we want your blood pressure to be less than 120 on 80. But we say you have a high blood pressure if your blood pressure is greater than or equal to 140 on 90. So it could either be the one above or below, or both of them being greater than 140, 90.
Okay. Dr. Koto, what is the significance of those numbers? The one on top and the one under. Let's clear it now.
Yes, so anytime you get your blood pressure checked, you will be given two readings. Top reading and a down reading. So the top reading, which is the higher one, relates to any time the heart contracts, or for that matter, squeezes, the force with which it pushes the blood out is that number. That is called the systolic blood pressure. And when the heart relaxes, the pressure that remains within the blood vessel is what we call the diastolic blood pressure. So the systolic blood pressure is the higher one, and the diastolic blood pressure is the lower one. Indeed, the most important one is the systolic blood pressure, which drives blood through the blood vessels, and it is the main culprit for the cause of diseases in most of the organs.
So systolic is the one on top?
On top.
That number is critical?
It's very critical.
Please reinforce that. Who determined that 120 should be the number?
Well, it's physiologically, that is what has been found, that at that level, blood is able to move slowly through the blood vessels and pushes all the way to all the organs. Now, when this number increases, or for that matter, when this pressure increases, the force with which the blood is moving through the vessels increases. This leads to distraction, or for that matter, the vessels begin to start deteriorating because the vessels are not designed for that level of pressure. And this pressure is also transmitted all the way down to the various organs. And this is what leads to the diseases that we see relating to hypertension.
Okay. So, Dr. Kumia, is it like trying to force a lot of water down a tube or a pipe, and it becomes too much, and then the structure of the pipe starts deteriorating?
Yes, essentially that's about it. And you realize that with the damage that occurs in the blood vessels when the pressure is so high, you have narrowing of the blood pressure, the blood vessels, which further worsens the blood pressure, causes it to go higher. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So that's why you don't want it to even get to that point. You want to try to maintain a good and normal blood pressure for most of your life.
So when the number goes very high, then we call it hypertension? Is that it?
So when the number goes above or equal to 140, 90, then that is hypertension.
Okay.
Within the range of from greater than 120, 80 to that 140, 90, we have various stages. So there you can be termed pre-hypertensive. So that means that you need to be more cautious or you develop overt hypertension.
Okay. Now, what causes hypertension?
So in medicine, we have a lot of primary and secondary. So primary means that we also call it essential. That just happens with the change in physiology of your body over the years. So usually we'll see that in increasing age, populations with increasing age. But we are even realizing now that even younger people are developing primary hypertension. For the secondary hypertension, it has to do with hypertension that develops when you have other conditions that cause your blood pressure to rise. Like you have thyroid disease, people with goiter may have high thyroid function, so they can get hypertension. You have kidney disease, it affects your blood pressure, you can get hypertension. There are so many diseases that can result in hypertension, and with those ones, sometimes if you diagnose the secondary cause early and you treat that cause, the hypertension can resolve.
Dr. Koto, can getting angry all the time raise your blood pressure?
Yes. Of course, if you're always getting angry, you come under stress. And the way the body works to adjust to this stress leads to an increase in your blood pressure. So every time when you are angry, on the edge, your blood pressure can go down. That's why we advocate that stress should be handled very well, because indeed it can lead to hypertension.
What are the most common risk factors?
So as my colleague Florence mentioned, the commonest cause of hypertension is the primary type, where there are risk factors. These risk factors are factors that when they are present, they can increase your risk in getting hypertension. Now, the risk factors can be classified as ones that we, the human beings, can do something about, which is called modifiable risk factors. And the ones that the human being cannot do anything about is termed non-modifiable risk factors. So let's go to the modifiable risk factors.
The ones we can change.
The ones we can change.
Okay.
So excessive alcohol intake can lead to hypertension. Excessive stress can lead to hypertension.
Okay.
Unhealthy diet can lead to hypertension. Excessive intake of salt, by way I mean sodium. So our recent foods that are high in salt can lead to hypertension.
Okay.
And then smoking. Smoking does also lead to hypertension. And then nowadays, we don't walk that much. We sit in our car, we drive to our work, we finish, we get back into our car and drive back home. So we are physically inactive. We don't exercise. So physical inactivity does also lead to hypertension. So these are some of the ones that, and then last but not the least, weight gain. So if you are excessively obese, meaning that your weight is so much for your height, it can lead to hypertension. These are the modifiable risk factors, and these are the ones that we can do something about. Now, the non-modifiable risk factors are the ones that we inherit from our patients. So you have a family history of hypertension. You cannot do anything about it. Whereas advancing age, so as you are growing, the tendency to have hypertension is also very high. So, and then the black race, it's been found out that we in the diaspora, the black race, are at a higher chance of developing hypertension as compared to our compatriots in the Europe and America. So the black race also confers on us an increased tendency to have hypertension.
Why is it being black? Is it stressful or something? I mean, why do black people have a higher risk of hypertension?
It is our genetic makeup, and we've been found to also have an increased sensitivity to salt.
Okay.
So when our diet is high in salt, we are eating a lot of Kobe and the likes. Our kidneys are very sensitive. So when we eat a lot of salt, the tendency is that the kidney will adjust and our blood pressure goes up.
Okay. So lack of exercise, smoking, a jot, stress, alcohol. These are things that you can control the intake of. So Kobe, Momoni, Kako, too much of that is not really good for us. And people are saying, ow, because they like the taste of that stuff, but it's bad for you if it's too much. Okay, too much is the whole deal. So now, you've hinted at some of the health complications that arise from high blood pressure. Which are the most common ones you are seeing in your practice?
Okay, so commonly you have people coming in with stroke. And these are people who sometimes don't know that they have hypertension. A lot of them don't know.
Because it's silent, right?
Yes, we call it a silent killer. It will not show you any signs or symptoms often, unless it has affected what we call target organs. These are organs that are supplied by these blood vessels, which are sensitive to be damaged if the pressure is too high. So this includes the brain. So people can get strokes. You can bleed into the brain. The vessel can be blocked so the blood doesn't flow easily to the brain. Then you get a stroke.
I hear very young people are getting strokes now.
Very young people
What's
are
the
getting
youngest
strokes.
you have
I've seen 35-year-olds get stroke. Yes. Sometimes even 30. Young people, 35
What's
most
the
of the
gender
time.
distribution? More males?
More males.
More males.
In my experience, more males.
Wow. Yeah.
So the brain for stroke, then the heart itself, you can get people saying they've gotten a heart attack. So where the blood vessels block and suddenly it breaks open and then it closes off completely. Then it gets severe chest pain, heart attack. Sometimes this process goes on slowly due to the hypertension. You develop what you call hypertensive heart disease. The heart can either become muscular or it can become enlarged and would fail to pump blood well or even relax to take up blood well. Then people will develop difficulty in breathing, swelling of their legs, their coughing, they can't lie flat when they sleep and all that. That's what we call heart failure. Okay, it can affect the vessels of your eyes. Then you have problems with your vision, blurred vision and all those things. We term it retinopathy or hypertensive eye diseases. It can affect your kidneys. And now kidney disease is so common these days, and a lot of them have hypertension. So I said earlier on that kidney disease can cause hypertension. Hypertension can cause kidney disease. So the two they actually form a vicious cycle. So if you develop kidney disease, even sometimes it's more difficult to control your blood pressure. So kidney disease is there. The vessels that supply your legs can also get blocked. You can develop wounds that fail to heal. Yes, and all these things can happen when you have hypertension.
It's one deadly condition.
Very sinister.
Yeah, that's the word for it. Before I read the messages, Dr. Koto, how do I know if I have high blood pressure? How do I check?
So, because as Flores mentioned that hypertension is quite silent, it won't give you any feeling. You don't have any fever, you don't have any abdominal pain, and you don't have any headache. So, we encourage that before you can know your blood pressure, you need to regularly check. So when you go to the hospital, you have to take the opportunity to get your blood pressure checked. You can go to the pharmacy to get your blood pressure checked. You can also visit the CHIPS compound to get your blood pressure checked. And indeed, in this age, people do have blood pressure machines at home. So you can have a blood pressure machine at home and get your blood pressure checked. Indeed, blood pressure at home reflects more of what you are living with than when you go to the hospital. You are stressed, you are in a hurry, the nurse calls you, hey, and then
it's
you just jump.
It's going.
And that may not be your true blood pressure. So
right.
blood pressure at home reflects what is happening within your system.
Okay. Dr. Kumia, when is the best time to take your blood pressure, really?
Actually, there are physiological variations in the blood pressure. So we actually also have a way of diagnosing it with what we call the ambulatory BP monitor, where you wear the BP cuff. It checks your blood pressure during the day, checks also at night. And then we have a specific range for during the day and also at night. So usually you'd want to check when you're in a relaxed state. So maybe you can check it in the morning when you wake up, in the evening after you've had your supper, rested for a while, you can check your blood pressure.
Is it a good practice to lie down and take it? Or?
Usually usually the correct way is to be seated, upright.
Okay.
Yes, and you will be seated upright with your back straight, and that's when you should check it.
All right.
Does
the arm matter? Left, right?
Okay, so there, in certain circumstances, there can be interarm differences. That's another cause of secondary hypertension. But usually, we will check with the left arm, but you can also check with the right.
Why the left arm, though? Is it close to the heart or something?
Well, the blood pumps through a major vessel, and then it branches off to the left and right. So you can either check in either of them.
Okay, all right. I'm going to check the messages. We have a couple of messages for you on hypertension. So let me just scoot over to the board. Your messages coming in on 05555561034. Please move. Respect your master. Hypertension, hypotension. What's the difference?
Hypo means low.
So low. Okay. So below 120, 80.
Usually when it's less than 160.
It's low. Okay. Best health practices one must engage in. I think we answered that. Don't smoke. Take out kakao and momoni.
Exercise.
Move stress. Exercise. Aaron, you're good to go. Alaji Dawuda. Is there a vaccine for hypertension?
No.
There's no vaccine. Alaji. If you are told your body oil is too much and it's now moving into your blood, what do you do? What is body oil? No idea.
No idea.
Okay.
I don't know whether if it's referring to cholesterol.
Okay, all right. Could be cholesterol.
Yes.
Body oil, I think of shea butter to put on my body. So that one doesn't go inside. Well, it can go inside if you're cooking with it. Good morning. I want to get in touch with the hypertension team. All right. Watch us right here on Facebook. My blood pressure is rather usually higher early in the morning when I wake up. Why? Why would pressure be high in the morning when the person wakes up?
Yes, so it is a known phenomenon that your blood pressure would be much higher when you wake up. Normally when we sleep, our body system quietens down. We are not working, we are not actively doing any talking or engaging in any brain activity. So we don't need this much blood pressure to circulate the blood all around. Okay. But as soon as we wake up, our body system also rises up.
Okay.
And then to be able to maintain this blood pressure, the system wakes up and the blood pressure increases. This is what we call early morning surge.
Okay.
But then there's a limit. If your early morning surge is very higher, it increases your risk of heart failure, stroke, and heart attacks.
Okay.
So most heart attacks or heart failure do occur early in the morning when we are awake and our blood pressure rises.
Okay. Sometimes I go to the clinic and just in an attempt to be friendly and speaking with the nurses, keep quiet. I'm come to do your reading. Keep quiet for a while. What, does my talking increase my blood pressure, Dr. Kumia? So
any form of physical activity may increase your blood pressure, but not necessarily. You want to be in a cool, calm environment. So probably why they would ask you to keep quiet. And sometimes when you talk, you get emotionally excited. That can cause your heart rate to increase. Blood pressure goes up.
Why would a doctor ask a patient, do you have BP? Collins wants to know.
It is very important because if I should get what he's saying, do you have hypertension? So hypertension is the major cause of ailment in our hospitals. So in our hospitals, out of the first three, hypertension and its complications is part of the reasons why people go to hospital. And even what kills people in our environment, hypertension is the leading cause of death. Its complications, stroke, kidney disease, heart failure, lead to death. So it's important that your doctor will ask you, are you hypertensive or have you had your blood pressure checked? All right, so I hope that's good for you. Ras watching us from Agona Swedru, he said, what are we putting in place for dairy foods that are being fed to children in school? So far you're talking on BP. I really don't understand that, but thank you very much. Good morning. Please, can electromagnetic radiation cause a rise in your blood pressure? None that I've come across.
That we know. People are asking why questions for my doctor, so we don't like that. We don't like that. Please, what are the main causes of hypertension? Best solution, please watch the video again. It's on Facebook. We told you already, but you can watch it again on Facebook, and we'll let you know exactly what it's all about. Nancy from Doboro. What should be the early morning pressure range? Good morning, Nancy from Doboro. Is there a range for early morning?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so usually your range should be between 130 and 140. If it goes above that, your early morning surge is very high, and it can increase your risk of stroke, heart failure, and heart attack.
Can hypertension cause erectile dysfunction?
Yes, it can. So, like I said, hypertension affects your blood vessels. So, if it affects the blood vessels going to your penis, which you call the pudendal artery, it can cause you to get erectile function. Then also there's the side effects of some of the antihypertensive medications. Some of them can be associated with erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
But you always have to weigh the pros and the cons, because a lot of people, young men, because they think they may get erectile dysfunction, do not take their medications. And it doesn't always happen to everybody. When that happens and you see your doctor, there are remedies to it. And it's better to control your blood pressure, preserve your kidneys, your brain, your heart, and all your other organs, than to just assume that you are protecting your erectile function and then not take your medication.
It's very important for men to have erectile function.
Yes, I know. And the doctors, we understand that it will support you in any way we can. There's a possibility to change the medication to something that's less likely to cause it, or to give you medication that's going to improve your erectile function.
Okay. Any more other side effects of high blood pressure and the medications?
So usually the side effects depends on the medication you are taking. So if you speak to your doctor, the doctor will be able to tell you, this particular one that I'm giving you can lead to this. This one can lead to this. So they are quite different based on the medications. But we also advise that there's also an inlay card which has most of the information pertaining to the medicines you are taking. So take an opportunity to read the health leaflet, the leaflet within the box, and get some information. And you can also ask your doctor some more. He may be able to explain further what some of the side effects are.
I just wish the pharmaceutical companies could put a magnifying glass in those things, because the paper the writing is so small. It's so small. You're reading side effects and you're like this, Come on, give us a magnifying glass so we can see and read and know whether things will be affected or not. Probably it's a silly question, but when should I talk to my doctor about high blood pressure?
Well, I think from the age of about 30,
Okay.
you could start checking your blood pressure.
All right.
You could talk to your doctor, have a conversation with the doctor. He'll probe to find out what risk factors you have, advise you on how to manage those risk factors. If you have a strong family history, he would let you know that maybe you need to check more often than others. If they check your blood pressure and it's normal, they could say maybe every 6 months, every year, continue checking. And at some point, as your age increases, they'll ask you to check more frequently.
Okay. Dr. Koto, just give us a sense of the extent of the burden, of hypertension in Ghana.
So in Ghana, recently, the paper that I've seen is talking about 25 to 30% prevalence, which means that the number of people who do have hypertension, which is quite high. Indeed, almost 20% of these individuals are not even aware that they did have hypertension.
That's high, almost 30%.
Yes.
So if I count my studio right there, 10 people here,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are likely to have it.
Yes, almost one in 3 or 1 in 4 adults
Wow.
has hypertension in our country.
Wow.
So it's quite a raging disease. We also know that of the number of people who are aware that they do have hypertension, just about 15% of them are on medications. So you see, there's a great disparity. And even that 15%, there's only about 6% of them whose blood pressure are under control.
So it's a serious issue.
So it's a worrying phenomenon that we need to talk about, and that's why we are here.
Awesome. Dr. Kumia, so a lot of people do the herbal treatment thing. What can you say about that?
So herbal medications, we now have herbal institutions that study research into herbal medicine. There's a herbal medicine course. But the thing is that the medications on the markets that are marketed in the buses, oftentimes they are not the ones that have been researched. You don't know what is in it. You don't know how much of it you should take. And then there's always the chance that it can have side effects, affect your kidneys, affect your liver. Sometimes they actually go for these BP medications, powderize it, put it in some herbal mixture, and then you take it and your blood pressure seems to be low. You think it's because of the herbal mixture. But then now, exactly. So now there are some fake herbal medications on the market. They realize that some people want to go organic. So they want to avoid the tablets medications. So they'll rather go and grind it and put it in a mixture than you be taking it and thinking that that's what's causing it. But then you'll be giving yourself the risk of getting kidney disease and liver disease.
Yeah, not too good. Quickly, there are doctors on social media. One of them said a BP of 150/80 is normal for the elderly. How true?
It is not normal. But even though it is known that as you grow, your blood pressure would increase. But then the 150/80 is not normal.
The thing with the elderly people is that sometimes we are a bit liberal with how low we target your blood pressure to be, because sometimes the body cannot withstand very low blood pressures.
Okay.
But like Dr. Akoto said, 150/80 is not normal.
Okay. Broken heart, can it lead to hypertension?
Well, we know
Emotional issues,
that stress, anxiety, depression are all cardiovascular risk factors. So it can, in a way, result in.
Sam, please, when should I stop taking my medication? Dr. Sam.
No, we don't advise that you stop taking your blood pressure medications. So it is not like you having malaria, where you will be told to take your medications for 3 days and then you are done. But with hypertension, it's not that way. It's a lifelong medication that you're going to take so as to bring your blood pressure down. The moment you stop, because hypertension has not got any signs, your blood pressure creeps up gradually. Eventually, you can wake up with a stroke, you can wake up with a heart failure. So we don't advise that you stop taking your BP medication.
Or you can wake up in another world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be careful. Sam, please, continue to take your medicine. Last one. Alhaji Dawood, can daily intake of coffee give you hypertension?
So the data on this is a bit controversial. I think it's about how much coffee you take. If you take a lot, you may eventually have your blood pressure rise. Sometimes it's a transient effect when you take coffee. So sometimes when you're going to check your blood pressure, they'll ask you to avoid taking coffee and other stimulants before you take it.
All right.
So
briefly, before we go, 30 seconds, what activities have you outlined to celebrate this year's May Measurement Month?
So in view of this celebration, one of the reasons why we are here is we are going around media stations trying to advocate and talk about hypertension, which is a major killer of our population. The other thing we're also doing is we are taking opportunities to do hypertension screening. So the Accra zone on the 26th is going to be in Abosokai, where we are going to invite people who are there to come have an opportunity to get their blood pressure checked, where we would advise them. If we find your blood pressure high, we'll have to refer you to health facilities. And then there's also going to be an educational talk, which is tomorrow, marking the World Hypertension Day, to talk about hypertension, its complications, and how hypertension is managed.
Where is the talk happening?
It's going to be on Zoom.
Okay.
So the link will be shared around.
Give us the link. We'll share it to our listeners.
We'll do that. You can always join in and glean some information.
One time. A last question to Florence. What's the major roadblock to hypertension management in Ghana?
I think there's a lot of our health-seeking behavior because we don't get to diagnose it early, and there's a lot of socio-cultural factors which prevent people from taking their medication as should be.
Okay.
And if I may add, in Ghana, we are much more focused on under 5 mortality, maternal mortality. We are doing well with that. Now, our people are surviving, but they are dying of hypertension. So we need to have a rethink.
All right.
National policies should be geared towards disseminating the information about screening, detection, and management of hypertension. This is very important. And we should also put in some more resources in that aspect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, exercise does help with your BP, correct? And
Yes.
then, yes, it can be passed on genetically, right?
Yes.
If your relatives have it, it's likely you can get
Yes.
it. So control it with the things that you should not do. Dr. Florence Akumia is a physician specialist at the National Cardiothoracic Center. And Dr. Frederick Akoto is a cardiologist at the University of Ghana Medical Center. Thank you so much. Happy World Hypertension Day to both of you with the celebrations tomorrow. My name is Kapwe. I'll go and check my heart and my BP to make sure that everything is kosher. She is going to raise your blood pressure if your team has lost. Her name is Maltiti Saida Sadiq, but it will be transient. And then everything will come back again. Here comes the sports news with Maltiti.